talk of the potential danger China poses to the United States. Beijing is a top focus of the annual Senate Intelligence Committee's hearing on worldwide threats. That hearing offers a rare opportunity for the public to hear directly from the U.S. intel leaders. And their message was simple: an aggressive China will not back down.
The People's Republic of China, which is increasingly challenging the United States economically, technologically, politically, and militarily around the world, remains our unparalleled priority. President Xi Jinping will continue efforts to achieve Xi's vision of making China the preeminent power in East Asia and a major power on the world stage. To fulfill Xi's vision, however, the CCP is increasingly convinced that it can only do so at the expense of U.S. power and influence.
And joining me now is CNN Global Affairs analyst Kim Dozier and retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. He's a military analyst and former commanding general of the U.S. Army, Europe, and 7th Army. So, Kim, that quote, "China remains our unparalleled priority," that's really significant, especially in the context this week of China basically warning the United States to tone down the rhetoric. But it almost seems as if both sides are denying their role in kind of the spiraling of tensions between the two, and the U.S. intelligence community is not backing down.
Absolutely. The U.S. intelligence community years back felt like nobody was listening to their repeated warnings about Beijing's expansion and intentions of expansion in terms of their military intelligence, and also things like their influencing operations, trying to influence what Americans think about China, but about their own government. And that's where they really got into the whole, warnings about TikTok and how it can feed certain messages to U.S. audiences to influence opinion. And now the intelligence community really feels like, okay, we've got your attention. The spy balloon helped, and we're going to lay out for you all the different ways that this is a national enterprise for China to eventually become the premier world power. And that means taking back Taiwan eventually, hopefully not by force from Beijing's perspective, but that it's something that bears watching, and that it is their job to keep watching and warning the White House about it.
And General Hertling, the tensions between the U.S. and China, it would be no exaggeration to say it's the highest it's been in many, many years. The Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, said that China will continue its efforts to undercut the United States. But as a military person, how concerned are you that that actually could spiral into a kinetic conflict, a military conflict between these two countries?
Well, Abby, what I'd suggest is the report that the DNI puts out is relatively short. It's unclassified. It's 10 chapters and 40 pages, and they address that. In fact, there's a great line from the report, and if I can remember it off the top of my head, it said, "Beijing is increasingly combining their growing military power with an economic, technological, and diplomatic influence to not only strengthen the party in China, but to pursue regional preeminence and pursue global influence." That, to me, is problematic. Director Haines has a very good point with all the other intelligence officials saying that it should be the priority. But truthfully, Abby, what I'd also say is it's a short and long-term priority. We have to address some of the key issues now that China is doing. Their advances in wireless communications, semiconductors, quantum synthetic biology, which I had to look up to understand. But at the same time, I was commander in Europe in 2011 when the Obama administration said we need to pivot our attention to the East, to Asia, to China. And what happened was we started paying less attention to countries like Russia, and we see where that got us in 2014. So this DNI report, which is relatively short, really addresses all the key factors that the intelligence community has to watch. And truthfully, I've been reading these for years. This is the most complex and complicated one I've seen because of the amount of challenges and threats that the United States faces today, more so than ever before.
And Kim, you teed this up just a moment ago. The FBI director, Chris Wray, raised his national security concerns about TikTok. Take a listen.
Could the Chinese government, through its ownership of ByteDance, that owns ByteDance US, if they wanted to, and ByteDance US were willing to cooperate or forced to cooperate, could they use TikTok to control data on millions of users?
Yes.
Could they use it to control the software on millions of devices, given the opportunity to do so?
Yes.
Could they use it to drive narratives, like to divide Americans against each other? For example, let's say China wants to invade Taiwan, to make sure that Americans are seeing videos arguing why Taiwan belongs to China and why the U.S. should not intervene?
Yes.
I think a lot of Americans who have TikTok on their phone wonder, is this being blown out of proportion?
I think a lot of people don't realize that President Xi, he did what may sound like a very boring thing back in 2017. He changed Chinese law to give the government access to all private companies' data, programming, et cetera. So that means, and also he made all Chinese companies cooperate with military companies and technology if needed. So that means that Beijing can ostensibly tell ByteDance, you're going to show us your code, you're going to show us your data, you're going to change your code, and you're going to let us send certain messages out. Even though I know the owners of ByteDance push back against that, that is still technically the possibility under this 2017 policy change that she made.
And you heard also there the FBI director making the point that in China, the line between public and private entities is just not the same as what we're used to here in the United States. We have to leave it there. Kim Dozier and General Mark Hertling, both of you, thank you very much.